lab where we learn and make chemistry very lively. So today we have a question on the board. A certain hydrocarbon whose molecular mass is 30 contains 79.2% carbon and 20.8% hydrogen. Find its what? Empirical formula and then molecular formula. By a lot of my chemistry students, those doing the integrated aspects of the chemistry, the agri students, the science students, so they will be thinking what is empirical formula and molecular formula. Let's come back to the beginning of the topic. So we have chemical formula, and chemical formula is a formula that shows the composition and then arrangement of atoms in a compound. And looking at the types of arrangement we have, that is the type of chemical, and then chemical formula, we have empirical formula, molecular formula, and then structural formula. And our empirical formula is a formula that shows or that expresses or shows the simplest number ratio of the atoms in a compound. And then the molecular formula is a formula that shows the actual atoms in a compound. And then the structural formula, which I don't have on the board, is a formula that shows the arrangement or the bond of atoms to atoms. So let's come back to the question and then analyze it. So for you to solve this kind of question, you have to put a tabular form. I'm using this method, but some people will use the other methods that you were taught in class. So I have my elements, I have carbon, hydrogen, which was mentioned in there. And again, to research hydrocarbon. So you have to know what hydrocarbon is. So in some questions, they will mention a term that does not show it's only carbon and hydrogen. So you have to pay attention to this word too, hydrocarbon. So hydrocarbons are the compounds that contain only carbon and then hydrogen, nothing more, nothing less. Pay attention to that. So when they said the molecular mass is 30 and it contains 79.2% carbon, so write our 79% for the carbon and then 20.8%. 8% what? Hydrogen. So now to get our empirical formula, we have to divide the percentage by each what? Relative atomic mass of the carbon and that of the what? The hydrogen. So now since we have this, we'll check for the what? The smallest value and divide it by the what? The smallest value. So here we'll have our 6.6 to be the smallest. So we divide here 2 by 6.6. So having calculated for the number of carbon atoms there, you realize that it's approximately 1, which shows that in the empirical formula for the A, so carbon is 1 there, and that of the hydrogen is 3. And this is the answer for A. So now let's talk about the B. So with the B, we were told that the molecular mass of that particular compound that will be formed is 30. So we have to take our empirical formula. Taking this down, the N here, a lot of people will be asking why the N. So the N here shows the number of empirical formula units in that particular compound. So we'll now do what? Solve and then make find the value for what? N. Then afterwards we'll get our molecular what? Formula. Relative atomic mass for carbon and that of hydrogen. We'll continue and then we'll solve for N. So our value for N is 2. So now let's determine the molecular formula. So we now have our C2H6 to be our molecular formula. Thank you for watching. Follow and then share to your friends too.